Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Earthship Endeavour, watching the stars drift past the main window. The ship moved quietly through deep space, far from any planets or stations. Jake had been exploring this part of the galaxy for 3 months now, looking for new worlds and mapping safe routes for Earth's trade ships. The Endeavour was not built for war. It carried scientists, doctors, and explorers. The ship had some small guns, but they were meant for shooting space rocks, not fighting other ships. Most of the 43 people on board had never seen real combat. They were peaceful people doing peaceful work. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez sat at her communication desk, listening to the usual space chatter. Trade ships calling each other. Planets sending weather reports. Nothing interesting. She was about to take a break when her equipment started beeping loudly. "Captain Morrison," she called out. "I'm getting a distress signal." It's really weak, sir. Coming from the Kepler system." Jake walked over to her station. The Kepler system was known to Earth Command, but they had never made contact with whoever lived there. The signals they had picked up over the years suggested the people there were peaceful farmers and traders. "Can you clean up the signal?" Jake asked. Amy worked at her controls for several minutes. Static filled the bridge speakers, then slowly a voice came through. It was high and musical, speaking in broken Galactic standard, the language most spacefaring people used to talk to each other. "Please, anyone who hears this, we are dying. The Ravagers have come. Our defenses have failed. We beg the stars for help before our world becomes ash." The bridge went quiet. Everyone had heard stories about the Ravagers. They were also called the Korthak Empire, reptile people who conquered other worlds not just for resources but because they enjoyed the fight. They ate other intelligent species and kept the skulls as trophies. "Amy, can you get more of the signal?" Jake asked. "I'm trying, sir. The transmission is very weak. I think their equipment is damaged." Amy adjusted her controls again. More voice came through, clearer this time. "This is Elder Luminara of the Zephyrian people, calling from Aurora Falls on Kepler 442b. The Korthak fleet has destroyed New Garden Colony and Crystal Valley. 3 million of our people are dead. They are moving toward our capital city. Our shields are failing. We have never built weapons of war. We do not know how to fight. If anyone can hear this message, please help us. We have children here. So many children." The voice broke, making sounds like crying. Then the signal went dead. Dr. Helen Price, the ship's science officer, spoke up. "Captain, I've been studying the reports about the Zephyrian people. They're herbivores, plant eaters. They've never had wars. Their whole civilization is built around growing things and healing. They probably don't even have police." Jake felt anger building in his chest. He had seen what the Korthak did to peaceful worlds. They didn't just kill people quickly. They made it slow. They enjoyed the fear. "Amy, how far are we from the Kepler system?" 2 days at maximum speed, sir." Jake looked around his bridge. His people were good at their jobs, but they weren't soldiers. The Endeavour had 6 small plasma cannons and some basic shields. The report said Korthak fleets usually had 200 ships or more. "Sir," said Lieutenant Commander Bill Carter, Jake's second in command, "Earth Command's rules are clear. We don't interfere in local conflicts. We're explorers, not soldiers." "Those aren't soldiers down there, Bill. They're farmers and healers being eaten alive by monsters." Jake walked to his command chair, thinking hard. He knew about the rules. Earth had learned to be careful about getting involved in other people's wars. But he also knew about Earth's secret military programs, the ones nobody talked about in public. "Amy, open a quantum channel to Earth Command. Emergency priority." The quantum communication system let them talk to Earth instantly, no matter how far away they were. It was expensive to use and reserved for real emergencies. This qualified. A few minutes later, Admiral Lisa Chen's face appeared on the main screen. She was sitting in her office at Colonial Defense Headquarters. Her gray hair was pulled back tight and her dark eyes looked tired. "Captain Morrison, I received your emergency code. What's the situation?" Jake explained about the distress signal and the Zephyrian people. As he talked, the Admiral's face grew more serious. "Captain, are you requesting authorization for military intervention?" "Yes, ma'am. The Korthak are committing genocide. The Zephyrians have no way to defend themselves." Admiral Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she asked, "Jake, are you absolutely sure about this? You're not just asking me to send a few destroyers. You're asking me to authorize Protocol 7 Alpha." Jake didn't know what Protocol 7 Alpha was, but something in the Admiral's voice made him understand it was serious. Very serious, ma'am. I've seen the reports from worlds the Korthak have visited. They don't just kill people. They torture them. They eat them while they're still alive. These Zephyrians, they're like children. They don't even understand what's happening to them. The Admiral looked away from the camera. Captain, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. Earth's role in galactic politics is more complicated than most people know. We don't just send out diplomats and traders. We've been preparing for the day when someone would threaten our friends. She paused, then continued. How much do you know about the companion program? I've heard rumors, ma'am. Something about military units with animals. Not with animals, Captain. Animals are our partners. Have been for thousands of years. When humanity went to the stars, our oldest allies came with us. Not as pets. As equals, Jake felt confused. Ma'am, I don't understand. You will. I'm sending you help, but Jake, once I authorize this, there's no going back. The galaxy is about to learn something about Earth that we've kept hidden for a long time. Are you ready for that responsibility? Jake thought about the crying voice in the distress signal, about children hiding in failing shelters while monsters hunted them. Yes, ma'am. I'm ready. Then God help us all. Protocol 7 Alpha is authorized. You'll have support within 6 hours. The screen went dark. Jake stood in the silence of his bridge, wondering what he had just set in motion. Captain, Amy said quietly, I'm getting more transmissions from the Kepler system. The Korthak are broadcasting on open channels. They're announcing their kills. For sport, Jake clenched his fists. Set course for Kepler 442b, maximum speed. Sir, Bill said, what do you think the Admiral meant about companions? Before Jake could answer, Amy spoke up again. Captain, I'm detecting a ship dropping out of hyperspace behind us. Big one, but it's not showing up on any of our sensors. I can only see it because it's blocking starlight. Jake turned to look at the rear display. At first he saw nothing. Then the ship decloaked and his breath caught in his throat. It was painted flat black and shaped like a blade. No lights showed on its hull. No name or number marked its sides. It looked like something designed to hunt in the dark between stars. Incoming transmission, Amy reported. A man's voice came through the speakers. It was calm and controlled, but Jake heard something dangerous underneath. Endeavor, this is Silent Fang. Colonel Steve Harper commanding. We're here to help with your pest problem, requesting permission to come aboard and brief your people on what happens next. Jake looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They were about to learn what Earth had been hiding from the galaxy. What humanity's real strength was. Permission granted, Colonel. Welcome to the hunt. The docking bay doors of the Endeavor opened to let the shuttle from Silent Fang come inside. Captain Jake Morrison waited with his senior officers as the small craft landed. The shuttle was as black as its mothership, and it made no sound when it touched down. The shuttle door opened with a soft hiss. The first person to step out was a man in his 40s with short gray hair and scars on his face. He wore a uniform Jake had never seen before, all black with no insignia except for a small silver paw print on his collar. Captain Morrison, the man said, extending his hand. Colonel Steve Harper, Companion Program. Thank you for calling us in. Jake shook his hand, noticing how gentle the grip was despite the man's obvious strength. Colonel, I have to admit I don't know much about your program. Harper smiled, but his eyes stayed serious. Most people don't, that's by design. What I'm about to show you has been Earth's most closely guarded secret for over 50 years. More people came out of the shuttle. They all wore the same black uniforms and had the same calm, alert look in their eyes. But Jake noticed something else. They kept looking back at the shuttle as if waiting for something. Colonel, Jake said, Admiral Chen mentioned something about companions. Partners, not pets. That's right, Captain. Humans have been working with Earth's predators for thousands of years. We didn't tame them. We made a deal with them. When we went to the stars, they chose to come with us. Harper turned back to the shuttle and made a soft clicking sound with his tongue. What came out next made everyone on Jake's crew take a step back. The wolf was huge, easily the size of a small horse. Its fur was silver gray with darker patches, and its eyes were bright blue. But these weren't normal wolf eyes. They held intelligence, not animal cunning, but real thinking intelligence. The wolf walked directly to Harper and sat beside him, looking at the humans around them. Its gaze was calm but alert, studying each person carefully. This is Ghost, Harper said, placing his hand on the wolf's massive head. We've been partners for 8 years. Ghost, meet Captain Morrison and his crew. Ghost looked directly at Jake and made a soft sound, almost like he was saying hello. Jake stared in amazement. The wolf was looking at him like he understood every word being spoken. How is that possible? Dr. Helen Price asked, her scientific mind racing. Genetic enhancement, neural implants, and 50 years of careful breeding, Harper explained. But the real secret isn't the technology. It's the bond. Ghost isn't my pet or my tool. He's my partner. We think together, plan together, fight together. More shapes moved in the shuttle doorway. Another wolf emerged, this one darker with green eyes. Then a third and a fourth. Soon 12 wolves stood in the docking bay, each one massive and clearly intelligent. But the wolves weren't alone. A shadow seemed to flow out of the shuttle, and Jake realized it was a panther. The big cat was completely black and moved so quietly it seemed to float. Its partner was a woman about 30 years old with the same calm alertness as Harper. Corporal Dan Wright, Harper said, indicating a young man. His partner is Shadow. He pointed to the panther, who was sitting like a house cat but watching everything with golden eyes. More companions came out. German shepherds with equipment packs and what looked like small shields attached to their sides. Eagles with wingspans so large they had to fold their wings carefully to fit through the door. Each animal moved to stand beside a human partner. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez stared at a German shepherd who was looking right back at her. "Colonel, are they all that smart?" "Smarter," Harper said. "Rex here has tactical planning abilities that match most military officers. Don't you, boy?" The German shepherd made a series of sounds that were clearly not random barking. They had rhythm and pattern like language. "He says he's pleased to meet you and asks if you're the communication specialist," Harper translated. "Rex understands that good communication wins battles." Jake felt his understanding of the universe shift. "Colonel, how long has Earth been doing this?" "The program started during the first colony wars about 60 years ago. We discovered that our bond with Earth's predators gave us advantages no other species had. Other races tamed animals for work or food. We made true partnerships." Harper walked over to a control panel and activated a holographic display. It showed the galaxy with various star systems marked in different colors. Red systems are hostile civilizations. Yellow are neutral. Green are friendly. Jake could see that most of the galaxy was red or yellow. The green ones became our friends because we protected them. Not with big fleets or planet-killer weapons, with small teams of companions who could do what entire armies couldn't. Dr. Price was studying the companions with scientific interest. "The neural implants, how do they work?" "They don't control the animals," Harper explained. "They enhance natural communication. Wolves already have complex pack language. The implants let humans join that conversation. Same with the others." A sergeant stepped forward with her eagle perched on a special shoulder mount. "This is Liberty," she said. "Liberty can see heat signatures from orbit and communicate enemy positions to ground teams instantly, and the..." Eagle looked at Jake with one bright eye and made a soft sound. "She says the Korthak. Ships are easy to spot because they run hot and don't use stealth," the sergeant translated. Jake realized what Admiral Chen had meant about consequences. "Colonel, when the galaxy learns about this program, everything changes," Harper finished. "Other species will know that Earth doesn't just have human soldiers. We have partners who've been hunting for millions of years, who understand prey and predators in ways no civilized species can." Lieutenant Commander Bill Carter spoke up. "Sir, what exactly are you planning to do about the situation on Kepler 442b? Harper's expression grew cold. "The Korthak think they're apex predators. They've never met real ones." He looked down at Ghost, who seemed to understand and showed his teeth in what looked almost like a smile. "The Zephyrians are herbivores," Harper continued. "They don't understand hunting or being hunted. But the Korthak do. They just don't understand what it's like to be prey." One of the wolves, a female with dark brown fur, walked over to Jake and sat in front of him. She looked up at him with eyes that seemed to hold deep intelligence and something else. Concern. "That's Luna," Harper said. "She's worried about the Zephyrian children. All the companions are. They understand protecting the pack, even when the pack includes people they've never met." Jake reached out carefully and touched Luna's head. Her fur was incredibly soft, but he could feel the powerful muscles underneath. "What do you need from us, Colonel?" "Transport to the planet's surface. After that, we handle the rest. The Endeavour stays in orbit and helps evacuate civilians. We'll clear the Korthak ground forces. 12 teams against an entire invasion force? Bill asked. Ghost made a sound that could only be described as laughter. The other wolves joined in, creating a harmony that sent chills down Jake's spine. Bill, Harper said quietly, the Korthak have never fought anything like us. They're used to enemies who fight fair, who follow rules, who attack from the front. They've never been hunted by creatures who spent millions of years perfecting the art of killing. Rex, the German shepherd, walked to the hologram display and actually touched one of his paws to it. The display zoomed in on Kepler 442b, showing the locations of Korthak forces. Rex is planning the attack, Harper explained. He can process tactical information faster than most computers. The companions don't just follow orders, they make the plans. Shadow the panther seemed to disappear into the shadows of the docking bay. Jake lost sight of her completely, even though he knew she was still there. Stealth is just one advantage, Harper said. But the real weapon is teamwork. Humans and companions thinking as one mind. The Korthak are about to learn that Earth's children hunt in packs. Jake looked around at the companions and their human partners. These weren't soldiers and weapons. They were families, brothers and sisters who happened to be different species. How long before we reach Kepler 442b? Harper asked. 18 hours at current speed, Jake replied. Good. That gives us time to plan. Harper looked at Ghost, who made a series of soft sounds. Ghost says to tell you not to worry. The Zephyrian children will be safe. We promise. Looking into the wolf's intelligent eyes, Jake believed him. The Endeavour dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. Captain Jake Morrison stared at his screens in horror. The beautiful blue and green world of Kepler 442b was surrounded by dark ships. Smoke clouds rose from the planet's surface where cities had been burning. Amy, can you get through to the Zephyrians? Jake asked. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez worked at her communication station. I'm trying, sir. There's a lot of interference from the Korthak jamming systems. She adjusted her controls for several minutes. Finally, a weak signal came through. This is Elder Luminara, came the musical voice, but now it sounded tired and afraid. Who is calling us? This is Captain Morrison of the Earthship Endeavour. We received your distress call. Help is here. There was silence for a moment, then the sound of crying. Earthship, you came? You actually came? We're here, Elder Luminara. How many civilians are left in Aurora Falls? Nearly 2 million, but our shields are failing. The Ravagers have been attacking for 3 days. They don't just kill us quickly, they play with us first. Jake felt anger burning in his chest. Behind him, he heard Ghost make a low growling sound. All the companions had gathered on the bridge to listen to the transmission. Colonel Harper stepped forward. Elder Luminara, this is Colonel Harper. My teams are going to eliminate the ground forces around your city. Can you give us information about their positions? Your teams? How many ships do you have? Just 2 ships, but that's all we need. Can your people help us with intelligence about enemy movements? There was another pause. Colonel, I don't understand. The Ravagers have thousands of soldiers on the ground. Their ships in orbit have weapons that can crack mountains. How can 2 ships help us? Rex, the German shepherd, walked to Amy's communication station and made several sounds. Amy looked confused, but Harper nodded. Rex says to tell you that sometimes the smallest hunters are the most dangerous. Harper translated. We'll be on the ground in 1 hour. Keep your people inside the shields. The transmission ended. Jake turned to look at the companions and their partners. 12 humans and their animal partners preparing to fight an entire invasion force. Colonel, are you sure about this? Jake asked. Captain, the Korthak fight like their ancestors, big, loud, and in groups. They expect their enemies to do the same. Harper scratched Ghost behind the ears. They've never fought pack hunters. The Silent Fang and Endeavour moved closer to the planet, using Earth's stealth technology to avoid the Korthak sensors. The enemy ships were spread out around the planet, but they weren't expecting sneaky attacks. They were used to enemies who fought with honor. Shadow, the Black Panther, seemed to understand the plan. She made soft sounds to her partner, Corporal Dan Wright. Shadow says the Korthak smell wrong, Dan translated. Like fear in old blood. She doesn't like them. None of us like them, Harper said. But we're not here for revenge. We're here to protect the Zephyrians. The dropships launched from Silent Fang, invisible to enemy sensors. Jake watched on his screens as 12 small craft headed toward the planet's surface. Each ship carried 1 human companion team. Captain, Amy called out. I'm picking up Korthak communications. They're planning to drop the city shields at dawn and start the final attack. Jake checked the time. Dawn on that part of Kepler 442b was in 6 hours. Then we better work fast. Harper's voice came through the communication system. He was already on his way to the surface. The dropships landed in the crystal forests around Aurora Falls. The Zephyrian capital was beautiful even under attack. Tall spires made of living crystal grew from the ground like trees, glowing with soft light. Gardens filled with strange, colorful plants surrounded the buildings. It looked like something from a fairy tale, but the beauty was broken by Korthak war machines. Huge metal vehicles sat in the forest, cutting down the crystal trees to clear firing lanes. Camps full of reptilian soldiers surrounded the city, preparing for the final assault. Ghost and Harper crept through the forest, moving like shadows between the crystal trees. The wolf's enhanced senses could detect enemy patrols from miles away, while Harper's tactical knowledge guided their path. The Korthak soldiers were impressive in their own way. Each one stood 8 feet tall and weighed over 400 pounds. Their scales were dark green and black, and they carried plasma weapons that could melt through steel. They had been bred for war across dozens of generations, but they had never met Earth wolves. Ghost signaled to Harper, then disappeared into the undergrowth. A few minutes later, a Korthak patrol simply vanished. No screams, no plasma fire, no sounds at all. The soldiers were there one moment and gone the next. Other teams moved through different parts of the forest. Luna and her partner, Sergeant Lisa Bell, used pack tactics that had worked for millions of years. They isolated enemy groups, cutting them off from help, then struck with precision. The Panthers were even more terrifying. Shadow could change her skin color to match her surroundings, becoming completely invisible. She and Dan moved through the Korthak camps like ghosts, disabling equipment and eliminating sentries without anyone knowing they were there. The Eagles provided eyes in the sky. Liberty and her partner, Sergeant Kate Morgan, flew high above the battle zone, watching enemy movements and guiding the ground teams. Liberty's enhanced vision could see heat signatures through the forest canopy. But the real shock for the Korthak came when they realized these weren't mindless beasts. When one commander tried to set a trap using captured Zephyrian civilians as bait, Rex and his partner simply found another route. The German Shepherd had analyzed the trap from half a mile away and planned a counterattack. Inside Aurora Falls, Elder Luminara watched in amazement as her people's instruments detected the battle outside their shields. The Earth Hunters move like our stories of the old spirits, she told her council. They fight not with anger but with purpose. The Korthak communication started changing. Instead of confident battle reports, Jake heard confusion and fear. Patrol 7 is not responding, came one voice. Patrol 12 has gone silent, came another. The equipment depot is burning, but no one saw attackers. War leader Graxoth, commanding the invasion from his flagship, roared orders at his subordinates. Send more patrols. Find these attackers. But the patrols never came back. Harper and Ghost watched from a hilltop as Korthak reinforcements moved through the forest below. The reptilian soldiers looked nervous, their weapons ready, their heads turning at every sound. They're starting to understand, Harper whispered to Ghost. They're not hunters anymore. They're prey. Ghost made a sound that was almost like agreement. Then he called softly to his pack. Wolf voices answered from all around the forest, a harmony that sent chills through every living thing that heard it. The Korthak soldiers stopped moving. They looked around wildly, realizing they were surrounded by predators they couldn't see or understand. This is what happens, Harper said quietly, when bullies meet real hunters. The Zephyrians inside their city heard the wolf song too, but to them it sounded like hope. Elder Luminara broadcast to her people, "The Star Guardians sing to us. The children of Earth have come to protect the children of Kepler." Above the planet, war leader Graxoth stared at his tactical displays. Half his ground forces had stopped reporting. His soldiers were hiding in their camps instead of advancing. The final attack was supposed to begin at dawn, but his army was paralyzed by fear. Impossible, he hissed. 2 small ships cannot defeat the Korthak Empire. But his surviving ground commanders were sending reports that made no sense. Soldiers disappearing without a trace, equipment destroyed by invisible attackers. Patrols found dead with wounds that looked like they came from natural predators, not weapons. Jake monitored the communications from orbit. The Korthak were learning what humans had known for thousands of years. When you threaten the pack hunts you. Captain, Amy reported. Colonel Harper is requesting pickup for Zephyrian civilians. They're ready to start evacuations. How many ground forces are left? Jake asked. According to intercepted communications, about 60% casualties. The remainder are regrouping for a final assault on the city's shields. Jake smiled grimly. The companions had done in 6 hours what most armies couldn't do in 6 months. But he knew the hardest part was still coming. War leader Graxoth would soon realize his ground attack had failed. Then he would try to end the fight from orbit. Colonel Harper, Jake called on the secure channel. The Korthak leader is getting desperate. He might try orbital bombardment. Harper's voice came back calm and confident. Copy that, Captain. We're ready for Phase 2. Phase 2? Time to introduce the Korthak to the Alpha Predator. War leader Graxoth stared at his command screens in fury. More than half his ground forces were gone, destroyed by enemies he couldn't even see. His remaining soldiers huddled in their camps, too afraid to patrol the crystal forest where invisible hunters waited. Enough of this shame, Graxoth hissed to his bridge crew. If we cannot claim this world, we will burn it to ash. Prepare the orbital bombardment cannons. His weapons officer, a smaller Korthak with nervous eyes, looked up from his console. War leader, our troops are still on the surface. Then they will die with honor instead of hiding like frightened younglings, Graxoth snarled. The Korthak Empire does not retreat from prey animals. On the Endeavor, Captain Jake Morrison watched the enemy fleet repositioning for bombardment. Amy, get me Colonel Harper immediately. Already here, Captain, Harper's voice came through the speakers. He was still on the planet's surface with his teams. We can see the Korthak ships moving into firing position. How long do we have? Jake checked his tactical display. Maybe 20 minutes before they're in range to start glassing the planet. That's enough time, Harper said calmly. Beginning Phase 2 now. Jake heard sounds in the background of Harper's transmission. Something large was moving, and the other companions were making soft sounds that seemed almost respectful. Colonel, what exactly is Phase 2? You're about to meet the reason the companion program exists, Captain. Silent Fang, this is Harper. Release the Queen. Deep in the cargo hold of the Silent Fang, massive doors began to open. The other companions on the planet's surface stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky. Even Ghost, the pack leader, seemed to defer to whatever was coming. A single drop pod launched from the stealth ship, larger than all the others. It fell toward the planet like a black stone, using no thrusters, making no sound. The Korthak sensors couldn't detect it, but every predator on the planet felt something change in the air. The pod landed in a clearing near the largest Korthak camp. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the doors opened with a soft hiss. She was called Queen, not because she ruled other creatures, but because she represented the absolute peak of Earth's most perfect predator, a Siberian tiger, genetically enhanced to the size of an ancient saber-tooth, with intelligence that rivaled any human strategist. Queen stepped out of the pod and looked around the crystal forest. Her golden eyes reflected not animal fury, but cold, calculating intelligence. She was 15 feet long from nose to tail tip, her orange and black stripes seeming to shift in the strange light of Kepler's twin suns. Colonel Harper jogged up to her, and the massive tiger made a sound that was part purr, part rumble of distant thunder. Harper placed his hand on her enormous head, and for a moment the scarred soldier looked almost peaceful. "Hello, beautiful," he whispered. "Ready to go to work?" Queen looked toward the Korthak fleet in orbit, then back at Harper. She made a series of sounds that were clearly communication, not random animal noises. "Yes, I know they want to hurt the cubs," Harper said, using the word companions used for any young creatures that needed protection. "We can't let that happen." Queen padded silently through the forest toward the main Korthak camp. Behind her, Harper moved like he was part of her shadow. The two had been partners for 20 years through battles on a dozen worlds. They understood each other perfectly. The Korthak soldiers in the camp were busy preparing their equipment for evacuation before the orbital bombardment. They didn't notice the tiger watching them from the tree line until it was too late. Queen didn't attack immediately. That wasn't how apex predators worked. First, she studied her prey. She counted the soldiers, noted their weapons, analyzed their positions. Her enhanced brain processed tactical information as quickly as any computer. Then she began to hunt. The first Korthak to die never saw her coming. One moment he was loading supplies into a transport, the next moment he was gone. His companions found only claw marks in the earth and a few drops of green blood. Queen moved through the camp like a force of nature. She was too large to hide completely, but she didn't need to. Her striped coat broke up her outline among the crystal trees, and her movements were so fluid that soldiers would catch glimpses of orange and black, but couldn't tell exactly where she was. The psychological effect was devastating. The Korthak had conquered dozens of worlds by being the biggest, strongest predators in any fight. Now they were being hunted by something that made them feel like small, helpless prey animals. "Contact the fleet," one Korthak commander screamed into his communicator. "There's something down here. Something huge." "Describe the enemy," came the reply from orbit. It's a giant predator, like the ancient beast from our homeworld's legends, but it thinks like a person." War leader Graxoth listened to the reports with growing disbelief. His soldiers were describing a nightmare creature that seemed to be everywhere at once. But the most disturbing part was how it hunted. This wasn't a mindless beast. It was strategic, patient, intelligent. On the planet's surface, Harper and Queen moved toward their real target. The main Korthak base was built around a massive communication array that coordinated all ground forces. If they could take it out, the remaining soldiers would be cut off from each other and their fleet. Queen studied the base through Harper's binoculars, her enhanced vision seeing details he missed. She made soft sounds, planning the attack. "Agreed," Harper whispered. 3 guards at the main gate, 2 patrols on the perimeter, heavy weapons on the towers. But there's a blind spot on the eastern wall. They moved through the crystal forest like twin shadows. Queen's massive paws made no sound on the soft ground, and Harper matched her pace perfectly. 20 years of partnership had made them into a single deadly organism. The guards at the eastern wall never knew they were there until Queen appeared among them like orange and black lightning. Harper disabled the communication equipment while Queen made sure no one could raise an alarm. Other companion teams struck at the same time. Ghost and his pack hit the motor pool, destroying vehicles and escape routes. Shadow and the Panthers took out the command bunkers. The Eagles provided overwatch, making sure no Korthak soldiers could coordinate a defense. But the real message was sent when Queen and Harper reached the communication center itself. The Korthak communications officer was trying desperately to contact the fleet when Queen walked through the door. The reptilian soldier, 8 feet tall and armed with a plasma rifle, took one look at the enormous tiger and froze in terror. Queen sat down like a house cat and tilted her head, studying him with curious golden eyes. Harper walked calmly to the communication console and opened a channel to the Korthak fleet. "War leader Graxoth," Harper said into the microphone. "This is Colonel Steve Harper of Earth. I'm calling to discuss terms for your surrender." Graxoth's voice exploded from the speakers. "Surrender? The Korthak Empire does not surrender to prey." "That's where you're wrong," Harper replied calmly. "You're not talking to prey anymore. You're talking to predators, real ones." Queen padded over to the microphone and made a sound that was part roar, part purr. Even through the communication system, the sound made every Korthak on every ship feel a chill of primal fear. "That," Harper continued, "is the voice of Earth's apex predator. She's asking me to tell you something. She says your soldiers taste like fear and cowardice, and she's getting tired of hunting them." There was silence from the fleet for a long moment. Then Graxoth spoke again, his voice shaking with rage. "Impossible. No single creature can defeat the Korthak military." Harper looked at Queen, who seemed to smile, showing teeth the size of daggers. "War leader, you have 2 choices. Leave this system now or learn what happens when you threaten a pack that includes Earth's children." More silence. Then new voices came through the speakers. Korthak ship commanders talking to each other, their voices full of fear and confusion. "War leader, the ground forces are completely scattered. Sir, we're receiving surrender requests from 3 different camps. War leader, something is moving between our ships. The sensors can't track it, but it's out there." Harper smiled. The other companion teams were already moving toward their next targets. Queen looked toward the ceiling as if she could see through it to the Korthak fleet above. "Your move, war leader," Harper said. "But remember, we know where you live, and we have a very long memory." Queen made another sound, softer this time, but somehow more threatening. Harper nodded. "She says to tell you that Earth's predators don't just hunt on planets. We hunt in space too. Are you ready to meet the companions who were born for the void between stars?" War leader Graxoth stood on his command bridge, staring at the planet below. His mighty invasion force had been destroyed by creatures he couldn't understand. The ground forces were either dead, missing, or begging to surrender. His reputation as a conqueror was in ruins. War leader, his communications officer, called out nervously. "We're receiving more surrender signals from the surface. The remaining troops want immediate evacuation." "Cowards," Graxoth hissed. But even as he spoke, he felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Real, bone-deep fear of being hunted by something stronger than himself. On the planet's surface, Colonel Harper and Queen watched the Korthak fleet through their equipment. The alien ships were moving closer together, forming defensive positions instead of attack formations. "They're scared," Harper said to Queen. The massive tiger made a sound that seemed like agreement. "Good. Maybe they'll be smart enough to leave without more bloodshed." But Harper knew Graxoth's reputation. The war leader had never retreated from any battle. His pride would make him do something stupid. Captain Jake Morrison called from orbit. "Colonel, the Korthak ships are powering up their main weapons." "I think they're planning to glass the planet from long range," Harper sighed. "Then we do this the hard way." "Queen, ready for a spacewalk?" The tiger looked up at the sky and made a sound that was part purr, part roar. After 20 years together, Harper knew exactly what she meant. "Time to hunt in the void." "Silent Fang, prepare for boarding action," Harper called on his communicator. Jake's voice came back confused. "Boarding action? Colonel, how do you board a ship that's in space when you're on a planet?" "Watch and learn, Captain." The Silent Fang decloaked near the Korthak fleet. The enemy ships immediately opened fire, but the Earth vessel was too fast and too well armored. It danced between the plasma blasts like a predator avoiding clumsy attacks. But the real surprise came when launch bays opened along Silent Fang's hull. What came out weren't missiles or fighter craft. They were boarding pods, each one carrying a companion team adapted for space combat. The space-adapted companions were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Dolphins with mechanical breathing systems and magnetic fins that could cut through ship hulls. Octopus with enhanced intelligence and arms that could interface directly with alien computer systems. Even some of the wolves and panthers, wearing full spacesuits designed specifically for their bodies. Each pod attached to a different Korthak ship like a parasite finding a host. The alien crews tried to shoot the pods off, but Earth's technology was too advanced. Within minutes, the boarding began. Commander Slicks was on the bridge of the Korthak destroyer Death's Bite when his security officer reported intruders in the lower decks. "How many boarding craft did they send?" Slicks demanded. "Just one small pod, Commander, but what?" "The intruders aren't using weapons. They're using claws and teeth." Slicks felt his scales crawl with fear. The stories from the planet's surface had spread through the fleet. Invisible predators that hunted Korthak soldiers for sport. But those were planet-born creatures. What could survive in space? He got his answer when his bridge doors exploded inward. A dolphin in a mechanical suit swam through the air using tiny thrusters, followed by a human in armor that looked like it was grown instead of built. "Commander Slicks," the human said calmly. "I'm Lieutenant Pete Johnson. This is my partner Splash. We're here to discuss your immediate surrender." Slicks raised his plasma rifle, but the dolphin moved faster than his eyes could follow. One moment his weapon was in his hands, the next it was floating in pieces near the ceiling. "Splash doesn't like guns pointed at friends," Pete explained. "She's been hunting in Earth's oceans for 15 years. Space is just another kind of water to her." Similar scenes played out across the Korthak fleet. Octopus companions slipped through ventilation systems and disabled ship controls, while their human partners took the bridges. Wolf packs in spacesuits moved through corridors like they were running through forests, coordinating perfectly to corner enemy crews. On the flagship, war leader Graxoth received reports that made no sense. His ships were being taken over by creatures that shouldn't be able to survive in space, led by humans who fought like pack hunters. "Impossible," he roared. "Activate the self-destruct systems. If we cannot win, we will take these Earth creatures with us." But when he tried to enter the destruction codes, his computer wouldn't respond. On the screen, a message appeared in perfect Korthak script. "Access denied. Have a nice day. Inky." An octopus wearing a tiny space helmet appeared on his security monitors, waving one tentacle at the camera while her other arms worked at a computer terminal. The bridge doors opened and Harper walked in with Queen beside him. The tiger wore a clear helmet that covered her massive head, connected to a breathing system on her back. She looked around the bridge with those intelligent golden eyes and sat down like she owned the place. War Leader Graxoth, Harper said, removing his own helmet. You seem to have a pest problem. Graxoth was 8.5 feet tall and weighed over 500 pounds. He had conquered 17 worlds and killed thousands of enemies in personal combat. But when Queen looked at him, he felt like a mouse being studied by a cat. What do you want? Graxoth asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Simple. You leave this system. You never come back. You tell every Korthak in the galaxy what happened here. The Empire will not accept this humiliation. Other war leaders will come for revenge. Queen made a soft sound and Harper nodded. Queen says that's fine with her. She enjoys meeting new people. Harper walked to the main view screen and activated a galaxy-wide communication channel. His message would reach every major civilization within 100 light years. This is Colonel Steve Harper of Earth's Companion Program. Today, the Korthak Empire attacked peaceful people who asked for help. We answered that call. Any species that threatens our friends will meet Earth's children. All of them. The screen changed to show images from the battle, companion teams working together with perfect coordination. Predators that had evolved for millions of years to be the perfect hunters, now enhanced with human intelligence and technology. We didn't conquer the animals of Earth, Harper continued. We joined them. When you threaten the pack responds. Remember that. He closed the channel and turned back to Graxoth. You have 1 hour to gather your surviving ships and leave. After that, Queen gets bored and you really don't want to see what happens when she's bored. The tiger made a sound that might have been laughter. 1 hour later, the Korthak fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying news that would change galactic politics forever. Earth wasn't just another human colony. It was the homeworld of predators that had spent eons learning to hunt together. On Kepler 442b, Elder Luminara stood in her crystal city as the shields finally came down. Zephyrian children ran through the gardens while companion teams kept watch from the shadows. Colonel Harper, she said as the scarred soldier approached with Queen padding beside him, how can we ever repay you? Harper smiled and scratched Queen behind her massive ears. Help us teach the galaxy something important. Peace isn't weakness. It's a choice. But when peaceful people are threatened, they need guardians. You want to stay here? Some of us, yes. To train your people and to make sure bullies like Graxoth think twice before coming back. Young Zephyrians gathered around Ghost and his pack, their crystal antlers glowing with curiosity. The wolves seemed to understand that these plant-eating people needed protection, and they settled in to provide it. 6 months later, the Kepler Defense Alliance was born. Zephyrian biotechnology merged with Earth's Companion Program to create something new. Peaceful worlds throughout the galaxy sent requests for protection, and Earth answered. The Companion Program was no longer secret. Videos of wolves, tigers, dolphins, and eagles working alongside humans spread across civilized space. Some species tried to copy the program, but they missed the essential truth. It wasn't about training animals. It was about partnership, trust, and love between different kinds of intelligent life. Captain Jake Morrison received his new orders from Earth Command. The Endeavor would establish training centers throughout human space. Other peaceful species would learn that friendship with Earth meant protection by creatures that had spent millions of years perfecting the art of keeping their families safe. On Aurora Falls, Queen lay in a crystal garden while Zephyrian children played around her massive form. Her golden eyes watched everything, always alert, always ready. But for now she purred like distant thunder, content that the cubs were safe. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. There are hunters and there are guardians. Earth's companions were both, and they had very long memories for those who threatened innocent lives. In the void between stars, other predators stirred in their ships, ready for the day when their human partners would whisper the ancient words. Hunt well, my friend. Hunt well.